Congress now demanding action after Jack Smith is apparently indicting Donald Trump for the second time. What can be done about it? We know the Biden DOJ has been purely weaponized against their political opponents, but does Congress have any powers back? Can they do anything about this? Matt Gaetz says, yeah, there is. We can do something about it, including defunding Jack Smith, the special counsel particularly. Now, we've seen this before with Matt Gaetz and other Congress people who've tried to defund particular people, and there's debates about whether they can do that and what the scope of that power is. But Marjorie Taylor Greene is another person who said that through the Appropriations Committee, through the power of the purse, they can start to withdraw some of that money from the DOJ, from the FBI, from this weaponized agency and institution. And Kevin McCarthy is going to tell us what he thinks about the new Trump indictment. But this is Matt Gaetz reacting to the Trump indictment and responding at the end of this clip with what his plan is moving forward, saying he in particular is introducing legislation into Congress to start this process now.
You would not see this continued pattern of indictment over indictment over indictment if they thought they had neutralized Trump. Is there a single American who believes that Donald Trump would be getting indicted over these things if he were not running for president again, and if you were not the leading contender for president again? And while this isn't a political show, you all can search the polling and see how President Trump is doing in the Republican field and in the general election. Again, not here to break that down. It's relevant to us insofar as it informs the decision of a weaponized government to target him, which is exactly the allegation that President Trump makes in his statement. Another important thing. The House of Representatives needs to take action to defund this special counsel investigation immediately.
Right on!
We do not need to wait for the appropriations process. We don't have to wait for the Holman Rule or some rider. They are attacking our democracy and engaging in election interference right now. And if the United States Congress does not have the capability to stop that election interference, then what is all the flowery oratory about preserving the republic?
They don't care about that.
We have to operationalize that.
It's their version of the republic.
And so in the coming hours, the coming days, I will be introducing legislation under my name in the House of Representatives as a freestanding bill to defund the Jack Smith investigation. And one reason why
we'll be covering
is the election interference feature. Another reason why, the lack of transparency. I have sent correspondence to the Attorney General. I just want to know who's on the Jack Smith team. You remember how the understanding of the composition of the Mueller team informed on how we saw a lot of that evidence and a lot of that legal analysis? They had a team of vicious Democrats. And if you look at Jack Smith and his team, you ought to be able to evaluate where they've made political donations.
Right. And they don't get the benefit of the doubt. We don't just presume that they cobble together a team of very diverse, 4 Republicans, 4 Democrats, 4 people who voted for Trump, 4 people who didn't vote for Trump, cobbling together this team of above board, ethical government prosecutors who are doing their due diligence and making sure this is not being weaponized. Nobody believes that for a second. But the fact that we can't inquire or ask those questions, who are these people? Where do they come from? What amount of money is being expended where, and really, go through this with a fine-tooth comb, then we can't have faith in the conclusion, in the outcome of that team.
Where they've been political appointees, what their connections are to people who have skin in the game to preserve their power in Washington, D.C. So because the Department of Justice has been non-responsive on my requests for reasonable information that a member of the Judiciary Committee is absolutely entitled to, because this is election interference, because it is not predicated on what we all saw as a nation, President Trump said, we have to stop sending money to this. Power of the purse is not some intermittent thing that we wield every year and a half or every fiscal cycle. It's something that we have to wield day in and day out to achieve victory for our people and to stop this. And by the way, I'm under no illusions about Joe Biden signing such legislative device into law. I know that Chuck Schumer never brings such a thing up, but you deserve to know where your members of Congress are counted. Will they co-sponsor my legislation? I certainly hope they will. And when we get to the must-pass legislation, because look, even if Jack Smith indicts Trump 10 minutes from now, you're looking at legal process that is extended out a great deal. We have to make sure that in this appropriations process, we do not continue to fund a government that has turned against the very nature of elections and free choice by the vote.
If there is a silver lining in this whole thing, is that the Biden DOJ cabal will slowly be exposed in this process. A lot of eyeballs are going to come down upon this. A lot of people who had the default belief that maybe you could trust the justice system or that they were operating for the greater good of America or something like that. A lot of them are going to wake up and see. And as Matt Gaetz talks about here, we're going to also see a lot from our elected leaders and our so-called, politicians who are in the Republican Party and where they stand on a lot of this, because people are going to start saying enough Trump stuff, enough DOJ stuff. It's irrelevant. It's not a national issue. It's only Trump's problem. In other words, it's not the country's problem. It's not a weaponized DOJ. It's just Trump crying wolf complaining about nonsense. So when Matt Gaetz introduces this, we'll start to see where are other people going to go and how is it going to politically cause people to separate or align. It's going to be very interesting to see. And so Matt Gaetz is one of the people who is doing something about it. We'll see if it leads to anything. Now, Marjorie Taylor Greene also had some commentary on this. She posted this on her Twitter account. She says, Jack Smith has weaponized the federal government against Trump in a complete lie about J6 to cover up the crimes of Joe and Hunter Biden and their entire criminal family. The Democrats want to arrest every one of their political opponents. It's hard to recognize our countries anymore. And there's a content warning coming up on this one, so earmuffs for the little ones. Earmuffs.
Former President Trump says he received a letter from Jack Smith saying he's a target of a grand jury investigation of January 6th. Do you have a reaction to that?
Yeah, it's absolute bullshit.
Whoa.
Yeah, that's my reaction.
Whoa.
This is the only way that the Democrats have to beat President Trump is to arrest him, smear him, charge him with ridiculous charges, all in a cover-up of Joe Biden's crimes, Hunter Biden's crimes. It's unbelievable. It's hard to even recognize that this is our country. The American people are going to be furious. And what Jack Smith is doing is the weaponized government. And he's weaponizing the Department of Justice against President Trump in a complete lie about President Trump and January 6th. And it's outrageous. I can't believe our country has to endure this. And I'll be standing with President Trump the entire way.
Have you spoken to him since this?
I have not spoken with him yet, but I'm sure I'll be talking with him very soon.
Given the fact that this is not the first time that he's been the target of one of these investigations, do you find this one to be more serious?
Yes, I find it to be more serious because the charges they're looking at bringing against him, they arrested people on January 6th. They held them pre-trial. They never let them out on bail. And is the question that I want to ask Jack Smith, is this the plan? Are they going to arrest President Trump, charge him with phony, fake charges, and then hold him in prison while he is winning the Republican primary, while he's going to win the general election in 2024? Is this where...
And a pause on this one, because we have to remember we're an entirely different jurisdiction in D.C. It's not Florida anymore. Judge Eileen Cannon, we know we've got a history with Judge Eileen Cannon. She was very favorable, or I would say reasonable, in the presumption of innocence and holding the Department of Justice accountable and not buying their default, everything we do is perfect standard. She pointed out a lot of problems that they had in their initial seizure of the documents. But then we translate the Trump defendant from a favorable jurisdiction in Florida back over to DC, and the whole game changes. We've seen those judges on the Proud Boys cases, on the Oath Keepers cases, on many others that we've covered here. They hear the word Trump and they just start frothing at the mouth. I mean, the transcripts that we read are just, wow. Are you serious? Trump gets zero benefit of the doubt and gets exactly the opposite. I would say the presumption of guilt in many instances. There's almost a dripping disdain. So the idea that Stewart Rhodes is somebody who has been in custody this entire time since he was charged, as the DOJ says, the leader of the Oath Keepers, the leader of a seditious conspiracy, if he's been in custody and they want more than 18 years, they have already charged and sentenced him to 18 years, and the government is appealing that because it's not long enough. They keep screaming at us, no one's above the law. So if Trump is charged as the ultimate insurrectionists, how can they not keep him in custody? If they've been screaming at us that every single one of these other people are a danger to American democracy, it would almost not compute. And if you bring this in front of a judge in DC, they might do it.
Our country is now, because it's an embarrassment on the world stage. If this is the direction America is going in, we are worse than Russia. We are worse than China. We are worse than some of the most corrupt third world countries. And this
Yeah, because we scream democracy, and everybody keeps saying we have free and fair elections. And this is just the law operating as normal. This is just Donald Trump getting his comeuppance for all of his crimes, and that the justice system is fair, even though we've seen it misapplied across the board. We have cocaine that is still missing in the White House, for crying out loud. That is one microcosm of a much broader problem with this. So we have questions about it. So does Marjorie.
needs to end. It's an absolute lie. And every single time President Trump is proven innocent time and time and time again. And he'll be proven innocent again.
He hasn't had a trial, though, right, related to the last indictment.
He shouldn't have a trial related to the last indictment. This is ridiculous. The document hoax is nothing but a hoax. And now they're going to try to charge him with some kind of seditious conspiracy on January 6th. It's ridiculous. Saying march peacefully, go in peace to the Capitol, how is that seditious conspiracy? It's not. And there's nothing wrong with asking questions about elections. That is exactly what we should do. We should make sure that our elections are safe. We should make sure that we have election integrity. There's nothing wrong with saying, look into this. Was there election fraud?
Are you talking specifically about his conversations with officials in Georgia?
I'm talking specifically on every single level. He can ask, was there election fraud? I should be able to ask if there's election fraud.
But can he ask them to find a specific amount of votes?
That's not what I'm talking about. I'm saying there's nothing wrong with asking for election fraud. And yeah, he can say, hey, where are these votes? You want to know why? My ex-husband still has not heard from the Georgia Secretary of State of why, when he showed up to vote in person in 2020, he was told, I'm sorry, sir, you've already voted by absentee ballot. And he didn't. Then we were called liars. I was called a liar. He was called a liar. Then we had to hire an attorney, do a FOIA request, and prove that no, he never requested an absentee ballot. He never sent in an absentee ballot. He never voted by absentee. So why did the Georgia Secretary of State website have him voting by absentee? And he wasn't the only one. He stood in a line of people that all were told the same thing. And that was reported all over Georgia. There's nothing wrong with asking, hey, are there some votes? What's going on here? What's happening with this?
Every single campaign that has ever run is always asking about the votes. Hey, we're down. What do you mean? Did we get the ones from that county? How about that county? What about those early ballots from County B? What about that district over there? Did they turn those in? I mean, when we sit here on election nights, and we've covered several of them now, we are waiting for the votes to come in. We're constantly asking, where are those votes? Where are those votes? We did it back in 2020 as well. So it is a process that is just normal and natural. But they say Trump does it. Are you serious that Hillary Clinton didn't ask about where the votes were in any one of the states she was losing in 2016? Give me a break. But they say that is now Trump causing pressure, causing corruption to twist and contort, crossing a criminal threshold by encouraging them to create and forge and be fraudulent in creating the votes. But Jack Smith's going to have to prove that case. And we're going to watch that. They're going to say that line is very different for Donald Trump. Other people can question votes. Other people can question elections, even like Jamie Raskin. But when Trump does it, it is now verboten.
Election, because clearly there was election fraud, and we still haven't heard an answer on it.
You said you haven't talked to the former president. Do you plan to talk to him today after this news?
I hope to talk to him soon to express how deeply sorry I am for him that the Democrats in Washington and the Department of Justice are weaponized against him because they can't figure out how to win. Democrats can't win on their policies. Their policies are open borders, baby murder, transgender surgeries for children, America last, America last, America last. 300 Americans dying every single day from fentanyl. You can't win an election when that's your policy.
What do you think?
Right. It's very difficult to win when your candidate is under 4 indictments by his #1 opponent in America. But that is the current status. Maybe Marjorie Taylor Greene will co-sponsor Matt Gaetz's bill, and they can make an effort to defund Jack Smith. We'll see. We'll see if Congress takes action as we continue to cover.